another thing I wanted to say was, through my professional life, I've come across many people who are on medicated drugs for depression and or anxiety and have been told that they have a medical problem. When they discuss their lives with me, it becomes blatantly obvious that there are real reasons why they feel the way they do and have the problems they do. I have assisted a person who came to me initially, as I would describe her, like a frightened little mouse. As time went on and I got to know her better, I found out some horrendous things. She had suffered abuse of various different kinds since very early childhood, and this would encompass emotional abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, neglect, and sexual abuse, quite horrendously, from early childhood to adulthood. She had ended up in women's refuges and was also still in hiding from someone who was an extreme danger to her. Now, she also medicates herself with marijuana. And I hear stories like this a lot for people who are on psychiatric drugs. Mostly those who have been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, bipolar. Almost all of them have been victims of horrific abuse. I do not blame them for taking the drugs. I know too well how hard it is to deal with your psychological, pain, problems, your inner glitches, all of those things. So I don't blame them for a second for taking that way. The other route is extremely painful and would be more so the more you have been through. My only complaint is with the medical institution itself. I think it is responsible for gross neglect in terms of not treating people holistically, not accepting that there is a cause for every effect. I mean, they barely do this cause and relating the cause to the effect stuff with physical problems that aren't also mental. It's all about dishing out drugs. The drugs often have worse side effects or almost as bad side effects as whatever illness you're trying to treat. And I think really with the psychiatric drugs, it's especially sad because it's very hard to do any work to heal yourself when you can't feel your own pain. And this even relates to psychological numbing that people do to themselves in order to deal with pain instead of taking the drugs. But what I relate it to the most is I just recently did senior first aid. And one of the recommendations is that if someone has injured themselves, do not give them painkillers. The reason for this is when paramedics arrive and they ask them, okay, they take the limb and they say, okay, does it hurt here? Does it hurt there? What if I move it like this? They're not going to get a true reading of the responses of the patient because of the fact that the pain is numbed or altered by the drugs, and therefore the person could have inappropriate treatment. And I think of psychological drugs in the same manner. They should be avoided wherever possible because of the fact that these are not illnesses in the same way that a congenital heart defect is. You might need to take some kind of drug to stay alive. It's not the same thing. I have never met, in my whole life, I've met a lot of people on a personal and on a professional basis. I've never met a person who suffered from severe depression or anxiety, whose upbringing or previous experiences weren't severely disordered. Never. Never met a single person who had these problems without having a reason to have them. And yet, they couldn't really put two and two together when I tried to discuss it with them. They didn't understand how those things fit together. And I really think if you're all capable of it, I'm not saying everyone is, some things are so big and so painful that you would probably have to take years and years off to be able to have the space and, the time and space to take that enormous journey to recover. But if it's at all possible, I urge people just to do some research into the side effects of the drugs that they are being offered, into alternative ways of healing. Because I'm very glad that I took the path that I took. And yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm me. I'm eccentric. I'm a bit too sensitive. I still get depressed sometimes when things are bad. But my whole life isn't a sludgy, grey, morose experience. My life is good overall, no matter how bad it gets, because I found that little thing that fills the hole. I don't have a hole inside of me anymore. And that came after some pretty serious work, And the path to healing yourself can, I think, in my experience, be found intuitively. So just look into your other options. Don't accept, the opinion of one doctor. See a couple of different doctors. And don't believe that some people are just born to be depressed or born to be anxious all the time, and that your background experiences, the abuse you suffered, has nothing to do with how you feel now. It couldn't possibly be true. Just think about it. Make up your own conclusions. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.